Oh my goodness gracious, thank you very much. I think the first thing I need to do is set the record straight on one issue. Regardless of what you hear coming from the East Coast, the United States of America is an exceptional nation. First of all, thank you for that very warm and kind.
Sorry.
That's okay, thank you. Thank you for that very kind and warm introduction and welcome. It's wonderful being here in the beautiful city of Bellevue, Washington, sharing some time with the Freedom Foundation and their distinguished guests. As was first noted, I was first introduced to the Freedom Foundation by my brother, Dr. Bruce Molen. He's a special guy. And I just wanted to ask him and his wife, Julie, who are two of my favorite people, to please stand up. Thank you for that. I'd also like to give a very special shout out and thank you to Irene Endicott. I must say that Irene further championed the foundation and what it stands for, and I'm very grateful for her guidance and her assistance in getting me here and for making this occasion come to fruition. Before I get started, I would like to make one other introduction. This is a little tough for me because I'm a real emotional kind of guy. You wouldn't know that, but I am. But I want to make this one other introduction of a very special individual. Actually, she's probably the most important person in my life. We have shared much together. She's been there for me every day, every night, for almost 60 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to my best friend, my life partner, my hero, my wife of nearly 60 years, Pat Molen. Thanks, honey. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you should be recognized too because you're half of this. This is a great opportunity for me to speak to like-minded individuals, share some thoughts on America and the meaning that carries for each of us. I really didn't think that there would be any advantage to like-minded folks, or as they say, preaching to the choir. But I do feel it quite necessary. Can we fix this? Is that something I can do to help this? Get closer to it? Okay. I'd like to talk a bit about where I think that we are, where we're going, and where we may very well end up if we remain lethargic and slumberous. I especially want to say a few words about the terrible addiction that is overtaking this country. I do not speak about drugs or intoxicants. I'm talking about something worse, something more sinister, more egregious. I'm speaking about this terrible addiction of getting something for nothing. Let's take just a few moments, speak to the future of our nation. You see, the future is here today. I understand that we have some students that have been invited. Can I have the students please stand up? Thank you, young ones. Ladies and gentlemen, we were looking at the future of America, our future leaders, doctors, teachers, lawyers, our business leaders, military leaders. These are the young people who are going to play a role in the future of this country. I just want to say to you, young people, that you're going to have to rise above all the past indiscretions, the failures, the misplaced loyalties and ideological commitments to certain changes. It's up to you to create new horizons, to lead the country in what may be the worst of times. You must lead with tough, determined leadership, for it is going to be paramount in our eternal struggle. One of the first things that you must do is take a look at our society and take inventory of where we are as a culture, as a nation. The very fact that you sit in this room tells me that you are not only interested, but you are eligible and soon to be qualified. The mission to keep this country great for your children and your grandchildren is paramount, and your preparation as you continue on through your school is most important. I want to set forth a challenge to each of you. Dinesh D'Souza, in his book and in his film, points out that each and every one of you, like the rest of us in this room, have the opportunity to write the script of our life. The idea that you can write the script of your life is real. But I would like to add one other important factor to it. You're also the director, you're the star, and you're the producer. So whatever you decide, what your choices that you make, whatever they are, that's up to you. But whatever you do, never take no for an answer. I'd like you to remember what Ronald Reagan said on an election eve on November 3rd, 1980. He said, quote, let us resolve tonight that young Americans will always find there a city of hope. And it's in a country that is free. Let us resolve that they will say of our day and our generation, we did keep the faith with our God, that we did act worthy of ourselves, that we did protect and pass on lovingly that shining city on a hill, unquote. Now that statement was appropriate then, it's also appropriate now. The only difference is that in the 34 years there's been a little bit of slippage. It's a slippage that has to be corrected if the nation is to continue. It's time for all of us to come together, and that's where you come in, because you are the future of America. To each of you, I wish the very best. Continued good health, good luck, and God bless. For those of you who have been around a while, how in the world did we, our generations, ever allow such incompetence to happen? Did we think that it would just go away and correct itself? When we look at our present situation, it's not hard to recognize our failures. Our schools are failing. We have given billions of dollars to our educational system. The infrastructure is falling apart all around the country. Yet we raise billions and billions of dollars through taxes to fix it. A question, where did the money go? Has anyone seen a bridge named after a veteran lately? Of course not. But I'll guarantee you that there are a lot of bridges, buildings, monuments, avenues, streets, boulevards named after politicians. The division between the economic classes has widened because there are those who preach the division of hate by making distinctions of class, by constantly harping on fair share, the 99%, the inequality of the poor. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. It doesn't work for me. Is there a difference in the classes? Sure. But no one compels another, not in this country, to stay in poverty. Is it tough to get out of poverty? Sure. One has to make some difficult choices. One must want to change, but they can do it. The opportunities are there. We just need to find them and do what is necessary to achieve our heart's desires. We all know it's even harder when you have politicians telling you that it's not your fault. It's the rich who make you poor. It's the rich who keep you in poverty. But if you'll vote for me, I'll see to it that you get your fair share. Instead of saying, come follow me, I'll show you the way out. All they can say is, come vote for me, and I'll get you more. You know, I actually find this occasion to be here today a great opportunity to speak with the Freedom Foundation and their members, and especially also to the guests here, in a concerted effort to take back our country. America is the world's one bastion of liberty and freedom, yet there are those who seek to end our freedom, end our liberty. There are those who may just want America to disappear. There are those who wish America had never happened. In a recent debate between Dinesh D'Souza and the infamous, my God, I thought Bill Ayers was in the building. Anyway, in this recent debate between Dinesh D'Souza and Bill Ayers, the question arose from Dinesh to Bill, are you proud to be an American? The answer was no. Bill Ayers said no. How many in America does Bill Ayers speak for? Actually, I think it's far too many. Far too many. Anyway, I need to talk a little bit about the film that you saw the trailer of. It is indeed incredible work about the continued efforts of Dinesh D'Souza. I realize that there are those who may have not yet seen the film, so I'm not going to say too much about it. I don't want to give anything away. Suffice to say that I feel the film is a must-see by everyone, especially young people. And for all you young people in the back of the room sitting here today, please go see the film. You won't be sorry. What you'll want to do is go out and tell your friends. You see, it speaks to the issues of the day. And it speaks to the issues that each and every one of us should be concerned about. Maybe I should just refer to it as a wake-up call. History as we know it, and the history as others would like to see it. History is a subject that is seemingly absent from the curriculum in many of our schools today. There are even those that are attempting to modify or revise our American history to suit their own devious reasonings or subversive agenda. It's hard for me to imagine a history book that just omits the names of Jefferson, Franklin, and Washington, but it's happening. So today I ask each of you to please stand with me and every other great American and be a voice of reason and steadfast resolve in not allowing those that tend, for whatever reason, to hate this country so much that they would change our history and our legacy. History just happens to be the constant reminder of why our freedoms are so special and so precious. After the film, it's the brainchild of Dinesh D'Souza. His challenge was to get people to ask questions. to seek answers. He's a great example of the opportunity that abounds in America. He came to this country at 17 years of age. He had left Mumbai, India, had lived in a home, no running water, no electricity. So as he flew over Manhattan to arrive at JFK, he looked down and said to himself, wow, what a great country. I'm going to make this my home. So he did, and he knew what he had to do. His parents, being loving parents, guided him to the point that he knew that he had to succeed in anything, he had to prepare himself. So he set himself up to get a good education, which he did at Dartmouth. He graduated at Dartmouth and began the road up the so-called ladder to success. He's an author, a filmmaker, scholar, speaker, debater, and truly a dedicated American and a great friend. He's also written a great book. The title of it is the same as the film. Mr. D'Souza uses it to dissect, challenge, review, and look at America with all its warts, blemishes. We're not perfect, and we do have some scars, but to do it in an open and honest manner. It also looks at America through the lens of individuals on the left and their particular mindset. The book is available at Amazon and other places around the country, and even now shortly at Costco. For those of you who have seen the film, all I can ask is tell people about it. Tell them how you feel about it. Because for the most part, 90+% are going to like it. May not play real well in Washington, D.C., but it'll play well across the rest of the country. One issue that I feel I should comment on is that there may be questions of, or curiosity about the legal issues pertaining to Dinesh. Simply stated, he and his team raised some ire with the release of the 2016 Obama's America film. Dinesh, in the end, was indicted for campaign fund irregularities. He made the mistake of agreeing to reimburse monies to 3 friends who wanted to also donate to the campaign of Wendy Long, who was running in the New York senatorial race. He wanted to help her, and he felt that this is a way he could do it. Anyway, 3 people at $5,000 apiece. I want to put this in perspective. Because what I find really odd, the fact that Dinesh was indicted, is that Senator Harry Reid used over $30,000 of campaign funds to buy gifts for his staff. And he bought those gifts through his granddaughter's business. And yeah, I have not seen the indictment come down yet for him. In my sincerest wish that what's going on will open eyes, get other people to seek answers. In fact, I heard a story that might illustrate what I mean about that particular thing, getting eyes open. I don't know how true this story is. You know how stories are? I understand that our White House press secretary, Josh Earnest, was out walking the streets of Washington, D.C. one day. He came across a young lady who was sitting on the curb with a box of kittens. So he walked over to the little girl and introduced himself and mentioned to her how pretty the kittens were. Well, she was very pleased, and so he asked her, "What's your name?" She said, "My name is Sally." He said, "What kind of kittens are they?" And she said, "Well, sir, they're Democrats." It took but a nanosecond for him to realize that he had a gold mine here. He immediately saw an opportunity for the president to maybe quell some of the dialogue that was going on in the country at the moment. So he immediately got on the telephone, called his office, called his staff together, because he had work to do. He'd informed the president about his discovery. The press secretary went into immediate action, and he set the wheels in motion to have this fantastic awakening, this reveal. The press was called, television news coverage, the reporters, they're informed that the president would meet this little girl right there on the streets of Washington, D.C., and ask her a question that the nation had to hear. Everything was in place. The president left the White House. He arrived in his big limo, and with the hungry press in position to record and report on this special meeting, the president, with cameras rolling, reporters at the ready, the president approached the little girl. He smiled his very best presidential smile, introduced himself. He said, "Hello, little girl. I'm the President of the United States." She smiled back and said, "Hello, Mr. President. My name is Sally." Again, the president looked around and made sure that the media was in position, ready for the big question. He smiled broadly at the press, moved closer to the little girl, remarked at how beautiful the kittens were. And then he asked Sally the big question. He said, "Sally, what kind of kittens are they?" She smiled, and as he was looking around at the press, smiling, she said, "Well, thank you for asking, sir. They are Republicans." Well, the president was obviously stunned, and he tried to contain his surprise, looked sternly at the press secretary. I mean, where was Jay Carney when you needed him? And tried to regain his best composure. He looked back at the little girl and he said, "But Sally, this morning you told my press secretary that they are Democrats." To which he said, "Well, yes, Mr. President, but now their eyes are open." I'm really sorry for that long story, but I felt it's so worth it. So the question is, are our eyes open? I'll leave the answer to that to each of you to answer for yourselves. But it's an interesting metaphor for the voters. How many have their eyes open? I think that might be one of the most relevant questions given the times that we live in. I remember a movie of a few years ago, starred Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. The title was Eyes Wide Shut. It's an interesting title, and it gives one reason to ponder what is happening across America. In my opinion, there is a sickness on the land. The times we live in are filled with questions about our government, its methods of governance, the integrity of our elected representatives, the failings of protecting our Constitution, and overseeing our nation's safety. The great sadness I feel is the silence that we hear from Washington, D.C. It's filled with wimps, no courage. No one will stand for the basic principles of the Constitution today. I know not why. Aren't there certain checks and balances built into the system? Where are they? Our children are showing outward signs of being infected by this insidious sickness. It begins in the early years, signs that school failures, delinquency, moral lapses, certain lacks of parental control, contempt for authority, disinterest in our country and its history, no interest in service to country, disrespect for the flag, disrespect for religion and those of faith. And some even adopting the progressive dream of a country with no boundaries, either morally or geographically. The question for each of us is simply, when is enough going to be enough? When will we get fed up enough to finally stand up and say, no more? And for a certain part of the population, no mas. We have a president who seemingly feels that he is overseeing a vineyard, and it's up to him to do with it as he pleases. It has been said that he is a constitutional lawyer, yet he continues to abrogate whatever he feels is expedient to his agenda with no regard for the Constitution or the nation's laws. He changes the laws to suit his personal goals, and for some reason he does so with impunity. That brings up another issue. How far can the president go with his executive orders or executive actions, whatever they want to call them? I would submit that he will continue to abuse his office and the Constitution as long as the American people allow it. I've often wondered why our elected representatives, no offense to our present representatives here, but why is it they needed to be prodded and goaded and pushed to do their jobs for the people they represent? All those with their own agendas or confused loyalties, to me, they just simply need to go away. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for us to start seriously considering, once again, term limits. The great American journalist and essayist H.L. Mencken said the following, quote, "As democracy is perfected, the office of the president represents more and more closely the inner soul of the people. On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of the land will reach their heart's desire at last, and the White House will be occupied by a downright fool and complete moron," unquote. Now that was in 1992. How could he have known? There are those who see two Americas. Simply put, the America that works, the America that doesn't, the America that contributes to the better good and the America that doesn't, the America that abides by the law and the America that doesn't. There are those who feel that they are owed a good life and those who make a good life. Everyone has the same opportunity to make it or not. America gives each of us that opportunity to make our own world. I see the different faces of America. While the left sees a version of two faces, I see the four faces of America. Number one, the face of the America that our founders gave to us. Number two, the face of the America as we see it today. Number three, the face of America that we pray our country will return to. And number four, the face of the America that we all fear she might become. So let me just say this. There is much to be concerned about in these perilous times. We need to be aware of the direction of our country and the ominous possibilities that are looming just around the corner. As we move forward, we have come to rely on the media scrutiny to keep us informed and in touch with the outside world. But then I stop and I question myself. I say to myself, rely on the media? As far as the media scrutiny is concerned, for some reason I get the feeling that they either died or took a fast trip to Mars. Whatever happened to an impartial and unbiased news media? And I'm talking about all forms of media. Print, video, broadcast, cable news. There are a couple of exceptions. Fox News and maybe one other, but I'm not sure who that might be. Fox tends to compete with the rest for news and investigative reporting. And we know the liberal press is around because we see them. We see their nightly news broadcasts and their biased versions of the news of the day. If they feel the people should see it or hear it or read about it, they make that decision daily. I shall have a memory of the time when journalism was a highly respected and revered career path. Some of our past media giants were voices that we listened to as journalists. We read and believed, we trusted and respected. Regarded some of them as icons and media legends. But something has happened in America. Maybe it was too many on the way to find the Pulitzer. The schools of learning, we correct that. The schools of indoctrination became the breeding grounds for a new era in our country. The era of progressive enlightenment arrived with the force of a megaton bomb. The media, whether they be print, television, or cable, are the known ideologues that made their presence known by literally changing the face of the news and its dissemination of the same. Recently, there was a news break. It was reported on Fox News about the Benghazi incident about 67 times in that one news cycle. Yet that same incident, during that same news cycle, from CBS, NBC, and ABC, received none, nada, zip. So what happened to the simple truths, to integrity? What happened to the Fourth Estate? What happened just to simple news reporting? Recently, just in the last few days, 38 major news organizations complained to the White House that news was not being reported. The White House was not being cooperative in releasing the news. The so-called most transparent White House ever. Another failing. One of the big issues that we have before us is the rift between those on the right. The left has their issues of party allegiance, but their rift is usually how far left should they go. The right is encumbered with a large variety of various Tea Parties and their affiliates. There are the establishment Republicans, the moderate Republicans, independents, libertarians, and even a few Democrats who tend to lean right. And they're mixed in with each of those designated groups with the so-called rhinos who tend to not know where their allegiance lies. We don't have a lot of time for the various factions to get their acts together and coalesce behind one set of ideas. If each one of the faithful cronies can not arrive at some kind of understanding and create an alliance with which to fight the terrible tide of the left, it's simple. We lose. And won't that be sad and stupid and unforgivable? The left is having a field day watching the infighting on the right. They do it with great glee and great anticipation. If we can't find a common cause to defeating the beast, if we are unable to find common ground to bend our wills just a bit, if we can't work together to work for victory in the midterms and eventually 2016, then we deserve what we reap. The question will be the hardest to answer. The question that will be the hardest to answer is the one that our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren will ask us. How and why did you let this happen? What will the answer be? Let me add one other thought to this. The most important issue of the day. The Democrats have had decades to entrench themselves into every corner of our lives, embrace every lobbyist, every activist judge, the unions, the social activists, and the usual idiots. Excuse me. I shouldn't use the word idiots. Let me amend that. Dummies. Let us concentrate on finding a standard bearer we can get behind. Each of us may not get our number one choice or our personal choice, but we have to find the best choice that all of us can support, we can get behind, and we can go to work for. Let us not repeat the foolish mistakes of 2012. Every man or woman who stayed home in 2012 because they didn't like the way Romney parted his hair or other personal traits were non-voters, not. They were voters. Their votes, or non-votes, they counted for Obama. In other words, a silent vote was for Obama, and look what it got us. The Democratic Party is wounded. They're bleeding, and they will become more and more like a wounded animal as the months go forward. The lies, the innuendo, hyperbole, and obfuscation of simple truths is not only going to get worse, it will become a crescendo of hatred, and the most insidious accusations against us are yet to come. They have the media, the bully pulpit, the incumbency, but we have the spirit, we have the will, and the drive to win, and the desire to take our country back. The wounds of Fast and Furious, IRS, Benghazi, NSA, the VA, the border and immigration, executive orders, executive actions, the Affordable Care Act, activist judges, the dissemination of the military, or decimation of the military, false bravado, incompetency, and again, more lies. So we must use our phones, our pens, get the social media to keep the wounds bleeding, become creative in finding new ways to inform, get the folks enlightened, educated, inspired, motivated, and get out to the masses. And above all, we need to become the left's worst nightmare. Simple question, where are the Edward R. Murrows and the Chet Huntleys, David Brinkleys, Jack Andersons, Tim Russerts? Primarily on the left, but they were fair. They seemingly were replaced by a bit more aggressive individuals like David Gregory, Chris Matthews, Ed Schultz, Pauline Dowd, and Paul Krugman. That's just to name a few. Stop and think about it for a moment. If there were no Fox News, we'd be getting all of our news from those who wield the power of persuasion through liberal ideologies dedicated to the progressive and repressive and oppressive standards of their New World Order. I picked up a tidbit from your quarterly publication, Legacy Society, and reflected an article titled Heroes by your own Irene Endicott. It profiled a speech given by Dr. Larry Arnn of Hillsdale College. He said, quote, "We are losing the battle, but we have not yet lost the war. An army is growing and we all need to be a part of it," unquote. Yes, we are all part of the army. And if we're not, we should get enlisted today. I think the most egregious, most unconscionable, most despicable thing that our government or any elected official can ever do is lie to us. Has anyone ever took the time to count the number of lies that have been directed at us? So what to do? How do we correct the malfeasance, the dereliction of duty, the desire to make America a second-rate company? Why would any American want to do this unless their hatred for the country was so deep and so ideological that the damage could become irreversible? And now we approach a midterm election that carries with its conclusion a conclusion that will determine many things in our future, all of them negative, if the left perseveres. Each and every one of us, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of personal desires or prejudices, regardless of standing in the community, regardless of age, gender, race, creed, we need now more than ever to stand together and vote for what we firmly believe to be the best candidate and thus the best course for America. There are no options, not now, not this time. Winston Churchill said, "I contend that for a nation to try to tax itself into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift himself up by the handle," unquote. The debt, the unsustainable debt, is a pariah around the necks of our children and our grandchildren. There are those that feel kicking the fiscal can down the road and into the arms of our grandchildren and their children is somehow okay. But those are the few who gain from a broken system, and we need to fix it. And part of the fixing is to allow them to find what the unemployment lines look like from the inside. The nation's debt and the ineptness of our present administration should shake us all to our toes. We're into the 6th year of President Obama. There's still much to learn about him that we don't know. And I feel strongly that we all have a right to know anything and everything about the person leading us and supposedly protecting us as a nation. We're a truly blessed people to be living in the greatest country on the planet. Our only problem in that regard is that there are a number of people who don't understand that. And sadly, some of them live right here in America. We need to get back to caring for one another, helping our neighbors, having a sense of community, doing our part to elevate our country back to the #1 position of all other countries. Easy? No, but it's doable. We have to start someplace. Thoreau said, quote, "Goodness is the only investment that never fails," unquote. We should remember that. You know, there's an old Chinese proverb, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. The White House version of that is give a man a welfare check, a free cell phone, cash for his clunker, food stamps, Section 8 housing, free contraceptives, Medicaid, 99 weeks of unemployment, free health care, and he or she will vote for Democrats for the rest of his or her life, and maybe even after they're dead. So what do? We need to stand up and speak out, and make our voices known and heard, protect our precious Constitution and its safeguards against tyranny and malfeasance. Ella Wheeler Wilcox said, quote, "To sin by silence when we should protest makes cowards out of men," unquote. For many of you here this afternoon, I'm sure you're as fed up as I am with the word games, the obfuscation of facts, the obvious contortions to make the unreal real and the real disappear. I'm really tired of fair share. I just don't know what that means. Who gets to decide what's fair? What about these things to think about? Let me be clear. Make no mistake, worst economy since the Great Depression. Saved or created. How about you can keep your present plan, period. You have the transparency. You will have transparency in everything that we do. And one that will ring in your ears forever is the sound of Obama's voice when he has lost his teleprompter. It is such a rhythmic sound, just stuttering and stammering. I just want you to know one thing, I'm sure you can tell. I love this country. I love what it stands for and what it offers each of us. We too often forget about those who paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we might live free and thrive in the promise of America. Yet we must protect the future of our children by maybe closing the border, enforcing our laws, making the country safe for our kids. People from all around the world still yearn to come to our shores, to breathe the air of freedom and opportunity, to work and raise their families as they see fit and practice their faith in peace. Not a lot to ask for. The Freedom Foundation is one of those groups of people who care. It's a caring organization that's working hard to effect change in a bloated, inconvenient, and failing agenda of the present administration. I agree with one of the organization's messages from Ronald Reagan. He said, quote, "We must not look to government to solve our problems. Big government is the problem." And he is right. Edward R. Murrow said, quote, "A nation of sheep will beget a government of wolves," unquote. Your voices will help stop the madness and stem the gradual slippage towards a different kind of America, an America that we do not want. And if we do not stand up, speak out, stop the insanity, we will be handing our progeny something so sinister and evil that we will never, ever be able to forgive ourselves. And they will surely never forgive us. Thank you. God bless you.